All right, let's see if I can do this shit without saying any bad words for the first couple of... Oh, I just fucked that up. Good day, friends. I am your close personal friend, J-Bone Capone. J-Man, J-Mac, Jason. I respond pretty well to hey you. And I'm here today to talk to you guys off the cuff, unscripted. None of these jokes are pre-written, so if they suck worse than usual, we know what to blame. But I have some thoughts from seeing a few things online recently, and kind of sparked an interest. It set off a stirring in my loins to record this video, and so I'm going to take a break from the constant barrage of spooky season, Halloween-themed movie content that every motherfucking movie-related YouTube channel seems to be just shitting out into the world every single day lately. I'm going to take a little break. We're going to call a little timeout in that, and I'll tell you guys what I've been thinking about lately after I smoke crack while I'm looking at the ceiling. There has recently been, or at least it has recently been brought to my attention, some controversy on the idea of spoilers. Spoilers in videos like this one. You might go to YouTube and you might watch a video, and the person doing all the yapping in the video might say something like, Romeo and Juliet die at the end. They kill themselves at the end. And somebody else might be like, wait a minute, you motherfucker. That was a spoiler. So I'm here to address what is really a spoiler, because most people, probably not you, if you're smart enough to be watching this channel, it's probably not you, but everybody that's not you out there is a fucking imbecile, and nobody knows what a spoiler is. So I'm here to tell you, this sermon is dedicated to finding the root of this issue and to talk about spoilers, right? Nobody likes a spoiler. I'm over here playing devil's advocate today, of course, in this sermon, but I don't want to be spoiled on shit either. I mean, it's like Chris Rock says, if you don't want to get your ass kicked by the police, the first rule is obey the law. So I'll iterate something similar. If you don't want to encounter a spoiler, watch the movie. That's the best way to avoid spoilers, is just watch the movies that you're interested in. And then you'll know what happens. And no matter what anyone else says, there will be no spoilers for you with regard to that film. So that's the first rule. However, I understand that it's not always easy to get to see a film. I have 2 young children and a wife and a full-time job, and I'm trying to do an internship and get a PhD. So look, and I make stupid videos in my spare time like this one. So I get it. I get it. It's not always easy to just drop what you're doing and go see a movie on release date. Sometimes you have to wait a little bit to get out to see a movie, or before you can get around to watching it on streaming or whatever, however you're watching it. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. I can appreciate that. However, if you really don't want to be spoiled, you got to prioritize that shit. Get it in as soon as possible, even if it's not opening weekend. So you're in my boat. You can't see a movie on opening weekend, but you still want to avoid spoilers. I mean, it's kind of on you. Like, don't click a video where the topic of discussion is a film that you haven't seen. Because as someone who has seen a film and who's recording a video that many 5 or 6 people might wind up watching, I don't know who's seen the movie and who hasn't. So I'm going to talk like you have seen the film. Another thing to keep in mind, if you feel like you've been spoiled on a film, there's some etiquette around spoilers, I believe. I believe there's some etiquette that we should observe as people who are going to talk about a film that maybe you haven't seen before. So if I'm going to talk about a film that you haven't seen before, there's some etiquette around it, around what's considered a spoiler. Bro, let's set up some specifications on what's considered a spoiler, because that example I gave earlier, where I told you that Romeo and Juliet killed themselves at the end, that's not a fucking spoiler. That shit was written in 1600, okay? That shit predates America. I could tell you what happens at the end of the Bible. It's not a fucking spoiler. That book was written thousands of years ago, you dipshit. That's not a spoiler. Doesn't count. First of all, if the movie's been out for a while, it doesn't count. So let's talk about the parameters. If the film is in the theater still, if it's still currently enjoying its theatrical run, I think the proper etiquette is to put up spoiler warnings if you're going to be discussing the narrative of that film and spoiling it. So in the title of your video, in the title of your post, whatever you're doing when you're putting that content out there, in the title of your podcast, you should say spoiler warning. All caps should be somewhere in the title, right? Maybe at the end. It should also be included in the description. So you've got two kind of text barriers. When people are selecting the podcast or video, they can see spoiler warning in the title. And then if they read the description, they will also see spoiler warning in the description. That is the first point of etiquette. But I also think it's good etiquette to say spoiler warning in the video too, as you're introducing the topic and you're mentioning the movie that you're going to be discussing. You should, as just good etiquette, you should say, this review is going to contain spoilers for a film that's in theaters right now, whatever it might be, Joker 2, whatever the fuck you're talking about. The movie's in theaters right now. If you haven't seen it, this is your spoiler warning to turn away, come back when you've seen it. All of that is perfectly fine etiquette. If the person has done those things and you proceed to get spoiled on that video anyway, that shit is on you, my friend. Don't file a fucking class action on me for spoiling the movie because I gave you 3 fucking warnings, right? That's if it's a new movie. That's the etiquette for a new movie. I don't believe that discussing an old film, a film that's no longer in its theatrical run, is a spoiler anymore. That's my hot take of the video. It's not a spoiler. Where you draw that distinction is kind of a personal thing. And again, if you feel like being extra polite, you give people a little bit more time. Extend those spoiler warnings a little bit longer, maybe the first year of a film's release, right? It's only been out for 9 months. I'm going to spoiler warn people. But regardless of when you determine that specific time to be, whether it's a year or 6 months at the end of the theatrical release, you can be conservative and say 2 years. I'm going to give people 2 years to see this movie. There is a point in time, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, 10 years, there's a point in time where we are now discussing an older film, a film that was released a considerable time ago, and therefore, I'm not spoiling shit. And you can kiss my whole fucking ass. You can suck my dick from the back while I smoke crack, because it's not a fucking spoiler if I'm talking about Romeo and Juliet, because you fucking know Romeo and Juliet. It's in the cultural zeitgeist and has been for centuries, but you know, it's also very fucking old. It's hyperbole. I'm using this hyperbolic example of a fucking play that Shakespeare wrote in 1600 or some shit like that. But what I'm saying is there are movies that are 50 fucking years old. And I'm going to fucking talk about them. And I'm not going to give you a fucking spoiler warning. If you want to watch a movie that's 50 fucking years old, well, you've had 20 or 30 or 40 years to fucking do so. So get the fuck out there and watch the movie. It's not my responsibility to make sure that you watched I Walked with a Zombie before I talk about I Walked with a Zombie. That shit was made in the 1940s, motherfucker. I don't know. What are you, my grandpa? You were born in 1927. You've had your whole fucking life to watch I Walked with a Zombie. You've had 15 fucking years to watch The Wolfman, starring Benicio del Toro. Here's a real spoiler alert for you on The Wolfman. That fucking movie sucks. I don't know why people are out here talking about how good that movie is these days, but those fuckers just came out of the woodwork, because 5 years ago, 8 years ago, nobody was talking about The Wolfman was good. The Wolfman was a waste of fucking talent then, and it's a waste of fucking talent now. Benicio del Toro, he slaps. Fucking, it's got a young Emily Blunt. I mean, she's still hot now, but like, we're talking about 15 years ago, young Emily Blunt. That's talent and hotness. That's talent on both levels. Anthony the fuck Hopkins is in this movie. They fucking look, The Wolfman's a piece of shit, and that's not what this particular sermon is about. That movie sucks dicks, and that's the fucking spoiler alert. Fuck that movie, all right? But the fact of the matter is, that film came out in like 2010 or some shit, okay? It's a 15-year-old movie. I can fucking talk about it. I don't have to be like, hey, spoiler alert for a movie that came out when you were 5. You've had your fucking whole life to see the movie. I'm going to talk about the fucking movie. And, you know, I'll extend some courtesy for a new film. Joker 2, I won't spoil without heavy spoiler warnings across the title, in the description, 2 written warnings plus an oral warning at the very beginning of the video. I will extend that courtesy to a motherfucker. But if the video is about a movie that's 20 years old, you expect me not to to spoil the ending of Better Off Dead? Well, motherfucker, get in a DeLorean and go back to 1985 and see that shit. You have had literally your whole fucking life to watch that fucking movie if you were born after 85. If you were born before 85, well, you've had at least almost 40 fucking years to see Better Off Dead. So what are you going to fucking come at me? Because I spoiled a fucking movie for you that's 40 years old that you've had every fucking, how many fucking weekends? What do you just get out of prison? Where you just left your ascetic Zen Buddhist monastery on the top of a fucking mountain where you didn't have fucking HDMI? You couldn't fucking watch a movie? For 40 fucking years, you couldn't watch Better Off Dead. For the last 15 fucking years, you couldn't watch The Wolfman. Get the fuck out of here with this shit. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous to hold me, or anyone else for that matter, to such a standard where I'm suddenly a bad guy because I talked about The Wolfman. Guess what? They all die in the fucking end. I don't think Emily Blunt dies. Benicio del Toro, he dies. He's the Wolfman. What do you expect? It's a remake. The Wolfman always dies in the Wolfman movies. It's not even a fucking spoiler. It's like saying Romeo dies. Have you seen a version of Romeo and Juliet where Romeo fucking lives? No, you haven't, because that would be a stupid version of that fucking story. Anyway, the Wolfman dies, just like Romeo. He always dies. The Wolfman always dies. Anthony Hopkins, well, he transforms into a werewolf at some point in this film, too. So he also fucking dies, but he dies earlier than Benicio del Toro's character dies. And they have a lame fucking wolf-out fight that's fucking stupid. It's not even fucking cool. And it's a waste of talent on all levels. And everybody fucking dies except Emily Blunt. And spoiler warning, she keeps her shirt on in the fucking movie. So don't even get your hopes up, okay? So you've been spoiled on The Wolfman. I don't even feel bad about it. I'm not going to lose a minute of sleep tonight because I spoiled The Wolfman for you because it's a 15-year-old movie. And you've had every fucking weekend for the last 15 fucking years to see that movie. So unless you got fucking locked in prison in 2009 and just got out last weekend, I don't want to fucking hear it. And if you did just get out of prison last weekend, I apologize to you for spoiling the film. I don't want to get knifed. I don't want to get shanked in my yard upstairs in front of my children. So, you know, to you hardened felons and ex-cons, I am sorry. Everybody else out there, tread lightly on the internet, I guess, because I'm going to fucking spoil some more shit. And if it's more than a year old, guess what? I'm not even going to warn you. You've had a year to see it, okay? Boom. We're talking about this movie. It'll still be in the title. It'll still be in the description. I don't know what you want from me. Anyway, if you agree with me, I like you. You're good people. If you watch this, hell, I like you. You're good people. Even if you disagree with me, I like you. Thanks for watching this shit, motherfuckers. What do you say at the end of a sermon? Amen? What the fuck do they say? The Catholics do this? They release doves? I don't know. Somebody fucking... Let's get some special effects to do the doves at the fucking end of this thing. I don't know.